Hello and welcome back to the Boxing Social Podcast in association with Betfred, with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. Delighted to be joined by my reluctant co-host, Mr. Barry Jones. Always good to see you, Barry. Was a little bit apprehensive of you turning up a little bit today. I was quite scared of you.
It was like, one, that makes you a coward, because if you're scared of me, that's weird. and it's just a nice feeling, actually. I gotta be honest, it's a nice feeling, someone being scared of me. But yeah, what can I say? You're an idiot on Twitter. Like that, I can't put no other way, mate. There you are. Like you talk about boxing, which is not your forte. I'm joking. Yeah.
Well, it's always good to have you back, and especially in the fight week that I know you will be looking forward to, as am I, and as I'm sure everybody who's watching this podcast will be looking forward to the rematch. Roman Gonzalez, Chocolatito versus Juan Francisco Estrada. Rematch of their great fight all of those years ago. Those brilliant 4 super flyweights keep churning out the great fights for us. And, you know, this has been a fight that's been many, many years in the making. I know you would have been looking forward to it. What a brilliant fight coming this weekend.
Yeah, I know when people say like chess match or, feeling out, well, that doesn't apply to this fight for sure. And they'll know each other well. And the two guys who like to start fast like I'm a Chocolatito fan, so it's hard for me not to just talk about him for like a week. He's brilliant. I know he lost a couple of fights, but he's come back and he still looked good. And, he took a fight to warm up to it. He's still brilliant again. And they're both sort of like on the tail end of their career, you would think, with Estrada, who by the way, against Quadras looked fantastic as well. So I think it might even be better than the first, because there's more vulnerabilities in both of their makeups than there was before. And so that would be where I think Estrada's naturally a bigger guy as it goes. I think he has a bigger frame. But I favoured Chocolatito in the first fight. And I sort of half favoured Estrada in this fight. Because as good as Chocolatito is, and he's just sublimely beautiful in his work, you have to be so sharp. He's smooth with his movements. He's not sharp movements, but I mean, he's such an engine on him to keep putting it in. But he's always the one coming forward, always one pushing the pace, How long can you do that? And he's defied logic how long he's been able to do that. It's because he stays relaxed. That's why he stays relaxed, so he doesn't use the energy that it looks like he's using. But still, he slips a lot of punches. His head movement coming forward is beautiful, but he takes a lot on the gloves. But he's still taking them. You're blocking them. They're not scoring shots. You're still taking them, and that drains a little bit out of you over your career, over your life. So I wonder about that, and I think, I feel upset saying it. I sort of fancy Estrada, and I need to leave.
Feel like Judas.
I feel like, yeah. I feel like I've walked in on my nan naked or something like that. It's just it's a weird feeling. Like, I shouldn't have said that. Can we do that again?
Strange analogy.
No, but it's that. It was like, I shouldn't have seen that. I shouldn't have said that. That's how it feels. But I have to. I just think. But either way, it's a great fight. If you don't care who wins, and you just love like 12 rounds, 8 rounds, however long it's going to go, of just pure action, non-stop action, this will just be breathtaking.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight, and I think you're not alone in probably. I think I probably maybe favour Estrada slightly, kind of based on what we've seen in the last few years. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that there was a lot of conversations. It was premature, as often things are in boxing, when you start talking about fighters being past their best, or is it time to hang them up? A couple of years ago, after the Sarikets-Rungvisai fights, that was a difficult mouthful. Obviously a lot of the talk was how much he had left, and we've seen him bounce back, admittedly with kind of 2 low-key comeback fights, and then he kind of looked thereabouts against Cao Yafai, and we heard kind of potential issues around Cao Yafai surrounding the weight, but you kind of look at what Chocolatito was able to do that night, and he still really showed that there's plenty left in the tank for him. Now, Estrada has been racking up the wins. He's had some good fights himself, and it feels like to me, I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but this is kind of maybe the culmination of this kind of these 4 kings that we've had, these new 4 kings, so to speak, with Sarikets, Carlos Quadras, who admittedly, he's not necessarily achieved what the others have done, but he's been in some brilliant fights.
Oh, he's really good.
He's played, and he was the first man he beat Sarikets or Rungvisai kind of. I think that was I can't remember when that was, a long time ago now. And I feel like this is now, because it's been something that's been clamoured for so long as well, that this kind of feels like maybe the end of that great little era that we've had for these superflies.
Yeah. And if it was, what a fight to go out on, because it hasn't happened yet, but we sort of know it's going to be a good fight. And what's amazing with them is they're non-stop action, but they pick their shots. And it's almost not impossible, so difficult to be that busy, but yet throw everything of quality. So like Estrada, who likes to come forward with himself, to think that Estrada's going to be the boxer in this fight, but the way he digs onto the body, so it's 1-2, and he tipped down with the left foot to the body, and the right hand to the top. They're not swinging in shots; they play shots. They rattle off combinations, but there's thought with everything they work. Their foot movement, their foot placement. With Chocolatito, that slipping, he steals your space. Not like a Eastern European where they use that front foot to steal your space and put you under pressure. He gives you the head. He gives it you. Come and hit me. And then slips and slides, but he slips inside the target, so that means then he can fire back. You know, a lot of the time when you're boxing, you'll slip, but usually you go to the side, you'll lean back slightly. That's your natural reaction, to move away from the force that's coming at you. But he'll be confident. Or you tell everyone what you have to do is you have to stay. I sort of tell people, when you've never boxed before, the hardest thing about boxing is not getting hit, is having punches thrown at you, because your natural reaction is to go up and away, because you want to get away from the shot. So you're trying to get out of the way, so you get on your toes and you turn your body away from the punch almost. And you sort of tell people you have to do the opposite. You have to stay low and almost get inside it. Be confident to stay in the pocket, as well, is a common term now. But no one does it better than Chocolatito. He literally every punch slides over his head. He gets caught with a few in the rattle of combinations, but he's so confident to slip and slide in front of you, make sure all the punches land over his head, because then your arms, he's inside your reach, so you got to readjust your feet, but he's there to land every time. And then once you could do that, you take away your opponent's offense, because he's afraid to throw, because he knows if he throws, you slip, you dip inside, and you throw the uppercut, the right hand, you own him. And that's what he does so well. And he never loads up, so he's not a big one-punch hitter. So accumulation, and the reason he has such a good engine is because he never tenses up. And that's easy to say, very difficult to do, especially when you see a target and you think, I want to punch you, so I'm talking out of turn. But when you see a target, a clear target, your natural reaction is to go, oh, I want to dig you, I want to give it to you now. He doesn't. He sees the target and hits it, but he doesn't load up. Everything just, I'll wear you down, and he has a plan. And he sticks to it, and he's just the most beautiful man. He really is. And if he was a middleweight, he would be a god of boxing. He would be, and he'd be worth so much money. He'd be ridiculous. If he was as good as he is this weight at any other weight from featherweight above, they would be talking about him as if he was maybe the best fighter ever lived. He wouldn't be that, but he would be so much revered, because they're little fellas. Well, look at that. No, they're talking about the four kings of lightweight. So 4 young guys who haven't really proved anything yet, really, let's be honest. No, majorly, they're good fighters. But look at these 4 guys. They've actually proved their worth. But they barely get a footnote. And even in trade magazines, they barely get a footnote.
Yeah, that's where kind of my suggestion of them as the new 4 kings has come from. We've released several pieces recently. Luke Williams on Boxing Social has been going back and looking through all of the great fights. I think there's 9 altogether between that mix of 4 fighters in preparation for here. So I completely agree. I'm massively behind that concept of, the lightweight division has more glamour on it, but it's also important to notice that, or to recognize the fact that, Roman Gonzalez and the work that's been done, and you go back to kind of the Tom Loeffler Superfly series that started when you had a Nue on the cards as well. That's been huge for super flyweight boxing and for the little guys in the modern era, like the double headers that they used to have with Golovkin and Chocolatito. I remember that one night when Golovkin almost lost to Jacobs, and it was Sarissa Ketzel-Rungvisai 1 versus Chocolatito, which was a brilliant fight, which I don't think gets necessarily the credit it deserves, because everybody thinks about the rematch. Everybody thinks about the second fight because of the emphatic nature of the knockout. But without Roman Gonzalez and without the push that was initially put behind him by HBO and has of course been continued by DAZN, these guys would be even more so under the radar than they are now. And I think it's great that, while they're not attracting the same sort of numbers or audience as the lightweights, or if he was a middleweight, as you mentioned, they're still getting more than they would have, and rightly so, because they are all fantastic fighters in their own rights. They've all matched themselves, or they've all been match tough and not been shy to take on those challenges, and they've produced brilliant fights because of it. So,
but they've sort of boxed in a lockdown all their career. I know people say, well, no, the lockdown has forced people to fight each other. But because they can't demand big money and they can't demand anything really, so they've had to take fights that are like, again, they get shown on HBO, but you've got to fight this champion, or we're not going to show you. So you take it because it's not just a bigger payday; it's a payday where otherwise you don't fight. So you know they're not like with a begging bowl, but sort of in the highest echelons of boxing, they are the beggars. They need to take the fights, otherwise no one will ever see them. So you're right, they've been pushed forward a little bit, as much, but not as much as they maybe should. And that's just the nature of people. People want to see two giants batter each other. That's why the heavyweight division gets so much money. Most of the heavyweight division, has given us some of the greatest fights in the history of the sport. But it's been the division that's given us more dud fights than any other weight division as well. Let's not forget that. No, we've seen some great fights. I know the problem is when you get two big guys in a great fight, you almost can get a better feeling about it. That's the truth of it. Whether you like, even a little guy like me who's not a lover of big guys because they took all my money. but literally, but yeah, but you do, and when you see a great heavyweight fight, you just gotta go, oh, this is the giants, the giant men, and look what they can do. When you see Bo and Holyfield, you go, look at these, they're massive men, but look how athletic they are. Look at how tough they are, and you had nothing but admiration. But when you see two little guys go hell for leather almost every time they fight, and people just don't want to see that as much. It's a pity. But these two guys, I think they've sort of, especially Gonzalez, have sort of broken through over the years, thanks to Box Nation, of course, and myself,
basically just myself, you. It's interesting you say that, because one of the things that I kind of mentioned to you briefly here, and I spoke to my colleague about it this morning, is that some of my kind of early memories of Roman Gonzalez were watching him on Box Nation with you fawning over him in the early hours of the morning. Do you remember the first time you saw him, watched him, noticed him, or is there kind of an early memory that sticks out where you were like, whoa?
There's not, and I think he just creeped up on me. I do. I can't. There's not one fight or one performance I can think, there he is. I think he just sort of creeped up on me. It's like the girl you thought you'd never marry. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll be together. I love her. I love her. I just love her, and I couldn't be with no one else. But I was like going out with your friend. I didn't even know you existed. Do you know what I mean? That's not my relationship, by the way.
You're full of the analogies today, man.
I'm full of it. But it's. I watched what's his name the other week. What's the big fella you have in you? Sat in my chair?
Dave Allen.
Whatever his name is. I don't know his name. Yeah, that fella, him. I watched him blag his way through it. I thought, I'll do that. I'm joke. He don't live on here, do he?
No, he doesn't.
That's all right.
He did say when he started, he'd eaten Barry Jones, which is his excuse for, I mean, he's never really been in shape anyway.
And then shit me out, and here I am. Hey. Cleaned up. And so I can't think of one particular performance I go,
you watched him live though, didn't you? You've seen him box live. Didn't you say it was on the Canelo Triple G on the
He's on the Canelo Triple G, yeah. It's one of the great performances it goes.
That was a comeback fight, wasn't it? That was after he got knocked out. Yeah.
But he's still, he's great to watch. He's just, he is. Cause there's just the fluency in his work. And again, and he has that the demeanor of his face, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's nothing. And maybe that don't help with the sell. Like little guys can sell, but you have to be more than just a good fighter. You have to be something else, like a Naz. I know Naz was a featherweight, which was a few divisions heavier, of course, but he had more than just his ability to sell himself. And I think that's how it is. And also, he's Nicaraguan and not Mexican, and that's sort of gone against him. I think being a great Mexican gives you so much more leeway. I know he's Hispanic, and that's the biggest pay-per-view market in America, but he's still not Mexican, and I think that would have made him a bigger star. I'm pretty sure of that, because he's been top of the tree of all those guys. They're all brilliant, but he's been the one. He's been the one that's been on the top.
Greater fighter than Alexis Arguello.
I hope people react if I say he is. You know what I mean? I don't. Will some of them follow me, or someone call me a wanker on Twitter? No.
Only me. That's fine.
It's just go on YouTube. It's worse. I got told now YouTube. I bite my nails now. I'm worried sick. But yeah, it's I suppose maybe because I think he is. You know, I don't know technically any better, but maybe he is at that as well. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll say yes.
I think
it's hard,
difficult to contrast
because you romanticize. Sorry, you romanticize like when I was a kid. So I wasn't really that into it as a kid because boxing wasn't shown like it is now. So you would read boxing news, but who reads when they're 10 or 12 or whatever I was, 13? Who reads about boxing that much? But you see little clips of things, places, but there was no VHS there was back then, you know what I mean? And you had to buy videos from the back of the boxing. There was no Boxing Monthly. What am I on about? That was way later. So it was, where would you get to see these guys? You only get to see Leonard and thing, and you get to see little cine films in other people's houses and stuff like that. You know, cine films are the big, well, you know, when you the big old, you're in the cine film business almost, the modern cine film business. But yeah, so that was it. So you would get to see little clips like that. So you wouldn't get to see as much. So you would just read and people would tell you who was a better fighter. To be honest, that's the truth today. But obviously now with YouTube and clips, you get to see them all and be able to analyze more. But yeah, Gonzalez is my favorite Nicaraguan.
I've not really spoken to you about. I don't know where. I can probably take a good guess, but I don't really know where you stand on pound for pound lists.
I don't like them.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to.
It's because what you base it on, it ultimately, in a great modern term that we like to use for scoring, it's what you like. Is pound for pound list your favorite fighter or who you think's the best? Because that's two different things. You know, like I might want a fighter to win. Like I might want a fighter to win a fight, but I don't give him a chance. So when I put a prediction on the fight, I say he can't win. But it don't mean I don't like him. That's the problem nowadays. You say something like I don't see how Billy Joe Saunders can beat Canelo for this. Like I just can't see it. I think he can make it awkward for him at times, and I think he got a better shot than anyone at that weight. But I just can't see how he beats him. That doesn't mean I don't like Billy Joe Saunders or I don't want him to win. That's the thing. People that you don't want him to win and you hate him, but that's not the case. You want to give your honest appraisal of people, you know, and that's the truth. I love Joe Calzaghe with all my heart. No, one of my greatest experiences in boxing, I've said this already, was watching him in Vegas because he was a Welshman who I'd known for a long time with his name up in lights, the closest I was going to get to ever having that. So I lived, you know, through him in many ways. I was like a proud dad, if you say. You know, because I've never had what he had, and he never showed how good he was, by the way. That's the truth. The Lacey fight, but I mean, he was better than what people seen. But
injured going into that fight as well.
Injured going into every fight. Honest to God. Actually, one of the fights in boxing Cardiff Castle against a Vegas doorman, Jimenez, something like that. His name was. Can't remember. But he injured his back on the day of the fight. Me and him messing around shadow boxing in his hotel suite in the Hilton.
Almost took his first loss to Barry Jones.
Couldn't hit me. Too fast for him, see. I think the years back because he did hit me. But yeah. So I used to get up and tell him whatever. But what was the question?
The question was pound for pound lists.
Basically,
where I'm going.
What I mean is, I love Joe, right? So, but then if he was boxing Roy Jones at his peak, I would say Roy Jones. Almost every time. Joe would give him a hard fight, by the way, and make him push him and make it tight. Maybe sometime, but you'd have to go with Roy Jones. You'd have to, like, and that wouldn't mean I don't love him, or I don't care for him, or I don't want him to win, or I don't think he's a great fighter. Just you got to go with your pace. So I think they ask me pound for pound. It's ultimately you go for your preference. And mine was Lomachenko for a long time because he just looked brilliant, and his resume for the short period of time was fantastic. No, you'd have to say Canelo because his resume throughout his career surpasses anyone's. And it does. I only got to look. Josh Taylor don't get mentioned. His resume, can we say resume? Is that an American term?
Resume, CV, you're okay.
CV, resume, man. And your CV. So you got to say CV with an American accent or resume with a Welsh accent. But his CV is phenomenal. Josh Taylor's. And why isn't he high up in the list? Why is Tyson Fury high up in the list when he beat Klitschko? No, this is a fantastic win. It really is. And the Wilder win, because the other one was a draw. I thought he won, but he was still only a draw. So, and that deserves to put him in there. But you put him on his ability or his potential to be the best on the planet at his weight. Where does it go? I don't know. How you judge it.
There's always an element of kind of what criteria that you base your pound for pound list on. There's the eye test, there's the accomplishments and achievements. Obviously, if we were going by just resume, you've got Pacquiao, Canelo, but how far back do you go for Pacquiao?
Yeah. Well, Pacquiao stands alone then, doesn't he? Because if you go back to the very beginning, but
exactly.
Chocolatito would be in there, wouldn't he, for that? He gets pushed aside because he had 2 defeats.
Yeah.
But that's only one guy he lost to, and he might avenge that next year. You know, like he won't, but you don't know. You know, that might happen. So what happens then? Well, like Lennox Lewis, he beat every man who beat him, but he still got knocked out twice. So, but, he's obviously one of the greatest heavyweights who ever lived, one of the best fighters who ever lived in many ways, Lennox Lewis. But you have to think, what you give credit for this and not credit for that. So it's down to what you like. And so I like magazines putting out pound for pound lists because it's just something to think about and talk about. But I think it's not a set in stone thing.
No, for sure.
Just someone's opinion really thinks the best at this time. But it's all theoretical.
Well, the reason why I asked is because obviously Juan Francisco Estrada is kind of he's lingering around sort of top 6, 7 in a lot of people's lists for pound for pound. I mean, Roman Gonzalez was in many people's eyes the number 1 pound for pound fighter before those 2 losses to Rungvisai.
Yeah.
My question is, does Roman Gonzalez gate crash the pound for pound top 10 again, the top pound for pound top 5 again with a win? Does Juan Francisco Estrada become top 3 pound for pound if he gets the win? I mean, you look at the guys he's beaten, even recent years, you don't have to go back that far, indeed, for either of them. Surely they could stack up against a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, it's whose list you're going off. So if they're actually on a list I could see, then I would go, well, yeah, if he beats Estrada, he takes his place. Automatically, you would think so. Does he go above... Well, Canelo's number 1, but Lomachenko was rare. Where does Usyk rate? I don't know, because that cruiserweight run was fantastic. Josh Taylor needs to go up there for Baranchik and Prograis alone.
Yeah.
That puts him up there. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but it puts him in a conversation. They are both two of the best
fighters in the world.
In the world boxing today,
class.
yeah. So whatever you put in the top 20, 10, whatever, they're two of the best around.
Also, one thing with pound for pound lists that we discussed earlier before we started is like, if somebody says Terence Crawford is my number 4 pound for pound fighter, and somebody will go, how can you say that? Well, disrespectful. He's number 1. And we are quibbling over the top 10 fighters in the whole sport. There are 18 divisions, deep as anything, and to be kind of mentioned in that esteem alone is quite the compliment.
And also, again, people get outraged about him, but like I forgot about Crawford, but like Crawford,
Crawford is an eye test, I think, purely because his resume does not stack up compared to his accomplishments in the ring. If you look at the belts and what he looks like in the ring, the eye test, so to speak.
But Crawford is not the young kid, by the way. Everyone thinks he's a young kid. He's like 32. But Crawford is higher in the pound list than Errol Spence. But I would have Errol Spence as the number welterweight.
Yeah, which again, because it obviously comes down to the fact that Crawford has shown that at various different weights,
moving up in weights and stuff like that. Yeah,
I've seen like Spence is. We've gone off topic here, but that's fine. Obviously Spence is like high in a lot of pound for pound lists, considering he's only boxed at 1 weight and he's not beaten arguably. Well, not even arguably the 2 guys he's at welterweight, Pacquiao and Crawford. He's yet to fight.
Well, that's the thing. Like all this weight hopping thing, which is
you're not a fan, are you?
I'm not a fan. I'm not for or against it, but people sort of say, again, you mentioned it. I don't have to go at you, but I sort of am now. It says Twitter continued. Twitter in the flesh. This is weird, isn't it? Can I just text it to you?
Like a real conversation.
I'll just text it to you. I can brush your hair. Yeah, but it's so I think the problem with the Crawford thing there is like he's. I don't know. You say he's number 1, or is Spence number 1, and how do you say then if he's better in the world than him, if he's pound for pound, and moving up, because he moved up in all the weights, and I think moving up in weights is a thing if you do it, and it's fantastic. But you mentioned that, but Spence is only boxed at 1 weight. Now, why should that go against him? He's a welterweight. He's not a super lightweight. And he's not ready to go up to super welterweight. Again,
that kind of comes into play with kind of what are you basing it on?
What would Hagler be? Would Hagler be he'd be the supremo middleweight back in the day, but he wouldn't hit the top 10 because he hadn't gone up like some Michael Spinks goes above him.
I think there's inevitably exceptions when it comes to people who have boxed in 1 weight class. My point on Errol Spence only boxing in 1 weight class is if you're in 1 weight class, you're a Marvin Hagler and you've cleared out the division, or Bernard Hopkins when he was down at middleweight, that's one thing.
Well, Golovkin,
exactly. Golovkin, another example. Vladimir Klitschko, another example. Fury made a good point.
There you go. See, heavyweight shouldn't be included because they haven't gone through the weight divisions.
No, but I'm talking about people who have
dominated
one division. If you've dominated one division, then yeah. But Errol Spence, without that Terence Crawford win at welterweight, without the Manny Pacquiao win at welterweight, it's difficult to make that argument for him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's why they are so.
Subjective. It's massively so.
So I like to see him in rate. I like to see him on like if a magazine, if you do it in your magazine, if you have a rating, then it's good.
I don't think we've not done a pound for pound list before.
You should. Well,
I think we did one. I think last year, but obviously
people like to be told. But you have to say it's your pound for pound list, not the pound for pound list. That's the difference. This is our pound for pound list, not the pound for pound list. So we're not saying that no way is he better than him. Just at this particular time, this is what we think. Theoretically, in a world where everyone was the same weight, unless again though, is it like
exactly?
He's achieved more, but I still think he would beat him.
Yeah, is it? Do you shrink everybody down to the same weight and see who would win? And then again, you're talking about like that's really getting into like confusing territory.
I think Crawford beats Pacquiao, but Pacquiao would have to go above him if it's about what he's achieved in his career. It's gone so far. If Lomachenko was a welterweight, does he beat Spence with his movement? Probably. Then does his movement ever be effective at welterweight? I don't. Again, are we judging it? I'm totally lost. Like this is like the fourth, fifth time. I worry that dementia set me because I've lost my weight like 5 times already. But the truth of it is, pound for pound, it's in the words of the great man. What was his name? Roger Mayweather.
You don't know shit about boxing.
Pound for pound list, you don't know shit about boxing. That's the truth. They're fun, but they mean nothing, and I don't put no weight to them, and I certainly don't get angry. I've been angrier now since we've been talking about it than I have when I actually read one. But I do like to see how people see it. Yeah, that's quite interesting. But people lose their mind over it. They really do. Like if you want to lose your mind over genuine world rankings from organizations. You lose your mind over that. Don't lose your mind over some theoretical pound for pound list that doesn't give anyone any sort of status. Yeah, of course. And I feel like you're also, it's like I said, you're splitting hairs between the top 10 fighters in a sport of thousands and thousands and thousands. I remember someone said to me, like, about losing your mind about theoretically is Steve Robinson from Cardiff. And he said, oh, you and Steve would have fought. I said I would have beat him. No, you wouldn't have beat Steve. He had all these fights. I said, that's not my fight. I didn't have all those world title fights. Feel the brain scan, mate. Don't blame me. If I had those fights, it would have been better than Steve. I've winded him up. You wouldn't have beat Steve. I would have. Well, how can you prove it? How can you prove it? I said, no, you're saying I can't. I'm saying I can. You started it. You prove how I couldn't. You didn't have the power. I said, I was too fast for him. And Steve want a puncher. And he wouldn't have it. Like, I love Steve Robinson, by the way. And he very well might have beat me as it goes. But it's just like, again, you just say so. I'm the best from boxer ever from Cardiff. Jimmy Driscoll was he though? You ever see him fight? Of course, you just like playing devil's advocate. No one near his level. Being the bastard of the argument. Yeah. No one near his level. Oh, can you prove it? Jimmy Wild. Before we move on, I'm bigger puncher than Jimmy Wild. What? You've seen any of his fights? Who was he fighting? Did he drop Acelino Freitas? Exactly. You know what I mean? If I wasn't such a pacifist. You dropped the pound for pound biggest puncher at the time. I just said too nice. I had all the power in the world. I just didn't. I don't hurt anybody. I'm a liver, not a fighter.